On a quiet, fog-filled night in a deserted urban street, a young girl walks home alone. The dim glow of streetlights barely illuminates the cracked pavement, and every step she takes echoes eerily in the silence. Shadows stretch and twist unnaturally along the walls of abandoned buildings, making her uneasy. Suddenly, she senses a presence behind her, a dark, moving shadow that seems to mirror her steps. Panic sets in, and she quickens her pace, but the street seems endless, winding in ways she doesn't remember. As she reaches her house, she finds the front door mysteriously closed, even though she is sure she left it unlocked. Her phone, which she tries to use to call for help, shows no signal. Then she hears it, a whisper calling her name, soft at first, then louder, echoing from every corner of the street. Heart pounding, she turns around, but the street is empty. In a dim alleyway, she notices an old, broken statue. Its cracked eyes suddenly glow red, and it appears to move ever so slightly toward her. Fear consumes her, and she runs blindly, only to find the street has changed. The path she came from no longer exists. Cold gusts of wind brush against her skin, carrying with them the sound of heavy, labored breathing. Desperate, she hides in an abandoned house. Inside, the rooms flicker between light and darkness. She sees her reflection in a cracked mirror, but it isn't her face staring back. A pale, twisted face with glowing eyes watches her every move. Terrified, she tries to escape, but the house seems alive, the walls stretching and twisting. At the climax, a shadowy figure emerges at the street's end, reaching for her. Her scream pierces the night, swallowed by the silence of the empty city. Late at night, a teenager walks alone through the narrow, abandoned streets of the city. The faint glow of flickering streetlights casts long, shifting shadows, and the distant hum of the city seems to vanish in his silence. She feels an uneasy chill as if unseen eyes are following her every move. Suddenly, a cold breeze brushes past her, carrying with it a faint whisper calling her name. She stops, looking around, but the street appears empty. As she continues, the pavement seems to warp under her feet, twisting unnaturally. The alleys she passes feel endless, looping back in impossible ways. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she notices a dark figure crouched in the shadows. Every time she blinks, it seems closer. Panic surges, and she breaks into a run, but the streets are now unfamiliar, and even familiar landmarks vanish. She reaches a small abandoned building and rushes inside, seeking shelter. The air is thick and cold, and the floorboards creak with every step. Light flickers from broken windows, revealing walls covered in old, peeling posters, but the shadows within them appear to move independently. In the corner, a cracked mirror catches her reflection, but instead of her own face, a pale, sinister visage stares back, grinning. Desperate to escape, she tries to leave, only to find the building's layout shifting like a living maze. Every door she opens leads her deeper inside, until finally, at the far end of a long corridor, a shadowy figure emerges, reaching out with elongated, clawed hands. Her scream pierces the night, swallowed instantly by the thick fog outside. The city remains silent, its dark streets hiding countless secrets, leaving her fate unknown. A lone girl walks down a deserted urban street, the night thick with fog and shadows that twist unnaturally around the broken streetlights. Every footstep echoes as if the city itself is holding its breath. She senses a presence following her, a dark, shifting silhouette that moves in perfect sync with her. Her heart races, and the familiar streets now feel alien, as if the city has rearranged itself while she wasn't looking. Reaching a narrow alley, she hears whispers that seem to come from the walls themselves, calling her name in a low, chilling tone. Her phone dies suddenly, leaving her completely isolated. She notices a broken statue leaning against a wall. Its cracked eyes begin to glow faint red, and she swears it moved closer. Panic surges, and she runs, but the alleys twist and stretch impossibly, trapping her in a labyrinth of shadows. She finds an old, abandoned building and slips inside. The interior is colder than the night outside, and shadows stretch and bend across walls covered in faded graffiti. Light flickers from broken windows, revealing the silhouettes of unseen figures moving silently. She looks into a cracked mirror, expecting her own reflection, but a pale, twisted face with hollow, glowing eyes stares back. Every instinct screams at her to run, but the building itself seems alive, doors slamming shut, corridors shifting like a living maze. A sudden noise behind her, a heavy, dragging footstep, makes her spin around. At the far end of the hallway, a tall, shadowy figure emerges, limbs elongated, eyes glowing with malevolence. The girl's scream pierces the oppressive silence, but it is immediately swallowed by the darkness. The fog outside the building rolls forward, concealing the streets once again, leaving no trace of her or the figure. The city remains a silent, haunted maze, waiting for the next wandering soul to stumble into its grasp. The night was unnaturally still as a young girl navigated the narrow, abandoned streets of the city. Broken streetlights flickered intermittently, casting jagged shadows that stretched and bent as if alive. Each step she took seemed amplified, echoing down alleys that felt longer and darker than memory served. A chilling sensation crept over her, the feeling of being watched, hunted by something unseen. Suddenly, she hears faint whispering from behind, a voice calling her name, soft yet deliberate. She spins around, but the street is empty. Her phone screen lights up, only to die moments later, cutting her off from the outside world. In the corner of the street, an old, crumbling statue catches her eye. Its cracked face twists unnaturally, and its hollow eyes glow dim red. It seems to inch closer, following her every movement. Panicking, she runs, but the streets no longer lead where she expects. Familiar landmarks vanish, replaced by alleys that loop and bend impossibly. The night air grows colder, gusts of wind brushing against her like icy fingers. Desperate, she spots an abandoned building and rushes inside, thinking she might find safety. Inside, the air is thick and heavy. The rooms shift subtly, walls stretching and corridors narrowing, as if the house is alive. Broken mirrors reveal not her own reflection, but a pale, twisted face with hollow eyes staring back at her. Shadows move independently across the walls, creeping closer with every passing second. At the climax, a dark, elongated figure emerges at the far end of the corridor. Its limbs are unnaturally long, and its eyes burn with a malevolent light. She screams, but the sound is swallowed by the thick, oppressive silence. The figure reaches out, and the building seems to swallow her whole, leaving the street outside quiet and lifeless, waiting for the next unsuspecting wanderer. The city streets lay empty, drenched in fog and shadow, as a young girl hurried home. Streetlights flickered, casting distorted shapes on the cracked pavement. With every step, she felt an unseen presence closing in, as though the darkness itself was alive. A whisper drifts through the cold night air, calling her name repeatedly, soft at first, then louder, echoing from every corner. Turning into a narrow alley, she notices an abandoned shop with broken windows. Its interior seems darker than the night outside, and shadows writhe along the walls. Her phone dies, leaving her completely cut off from help. In the alley corner, a broken statue leans against the wall. Its hollow eyes glow red, and she swears it moved closer. Heart pounding, she flees down streets that twist unnaturally, as if the city is rearranging itself to trap her. Desperate, she enters a derelict building, hoping to hide. Inside, the rooms shift, walls bending and corridors narrowing. Light flickers from shattered windows, revealing fleeting shapes moving just out of sight. She catches her reflection in a cracked mirror. Her face is gone, replaced by a pale, sinister visage with hollow, glowing eyes. The shadows seem to pulse and stretch toward her. Heavy, dragging footsteps echo behind her, growing louder with each second. At the end of a narrow hallway, a tall, shadowy figure emerges, limbs elongated, eyes glowing with malevolent intent. She screams, but the sound is absorbed by the thick fog outside, leaving the city silent once more. The figure advances, reaching for her, and the night swallows her entirely, leaving no trace except the echo of fear lingering in the deserted streets. The night air in the city is thick with fog, carrying a damp chill that creeps into every corner. A young girl walks hurriedly along a narrow, abandoned street. Broken streetlights flicker sporadically, casting twisted shadows that seem to move independently. Every sound she makes, the click of her shoes on the cracked pavement, her ragged breathing, echoes through the empty alleys, amplifying the feeling that she is not alone. Suddenly, she hears faint whispering, her name carried on the cold wind. Panic rises, and she glances behind her, but the street is empty. Her phone, which she reaches for instinctively, dies instantly, cutting her off from the world. From the corner of her eye, she notices a crumbling statue at the end of the street. Its hollow eyes glow red, and it appears to inch forward, silently following her. Terrified, she breaks into a run, but the streets twist and stretch in impossible ways. Buildings shift subtly, turning familiar paths into an inescapable maze. Cold gusts of wind brush past her, carrying heavy, labored breaths that echo unnaturally. She spots an old, abandoned building and darts inside, hoping to find refuge. Inside, the air is suffocating and the rooms shift subtly, walls stretching and doors rearranging themselves. Broken mirrors reveal a horrifying reflection. Not her own face, but a pale, twisted visage with hollow, glowing eyes. Shadows crawl across the walls like living entities, growing closer with every heartbeat. At the climax, a tall, elongated shadow emerges at the end of the hallway. Its glowing eyes pierce the darkness, and it reaches out with unnaturally long limbs. She screams, but the sound is swallowed by the oppressive silence of the building. The city outside remains quiet, fog rolling across empty streets, leaving no evidence that she was ever there, only the lingering sense of dread for those who dare to wander at night. A thick fog blankets the abandoned urban streets as a young girl hurries home, the dim streetlights flickering intermittently. The cracked pavement stretches endlessly, and the shadows cast by broken buildings twist and writhe unnaturally. Every footstep echoes in the silence, heightening the feeling that something is following her. A soft whisper drifts through the air, calling her name, and she spins around, but the streets remain empty. She notices a dark figure at the end of a narrow alley, its shape indistinct but its presence menacing. Her phone dies suddenly, leaving her isolated in the labyrinthine streets. Panic surges as she runs, but the city seems to shift around her. The streets bend, alleys loop back impossibly, and familiar landmarks vanish. She stumbles into a derelict building, hoping to find refuge, only to discover that the interior is alive with subtle movements. The walls stretch, corridors narrow, and broken furniture creaks as though moved by unseen hands. Light flickers through shattered windows, revealing fleeting, distorted shadows that seem to watch her every step. In a cracked mirror, she expects her reflection, but instead, a pale, twisted face with hollow, glowing eyes stares back. She turns in terror, but the shadows advance independently, creeping closer with every heartbeat. At the far end of the hallway, a tall, elongated figure emerges from the darkness, its glowing eyes fixed on her. Limbs stretched unnaturally, it moves silently but with intent. She screams, but the sound is absorbed by the fog-filled streets outside. The figure reaches toward her, and the shifting building seems to close in, swallowing her completely. The city remains silent, a haunted maze waiting for the next wandering soul to stumble into its grasp. A young girl walks briskly through the empty, fog-covered streets of the city. The dim glow of flickering streetlights barely illuminates the cracked sidewalks. Shadows stretch unnaturally along the walls of abandoned buildings, twisting as though they are alive. Each echo of her footsteps magnifies the silence, making her feel haunted. A cold whisper brushes her ear, calling her name repeatedly. She spins around, but no one is there. Turning a corner, she notices a broken statue leaning against a wall. Its hollow eyes glow faint red, and it seems to shift subtly when she isn't looking directly at it. Her heart races and panic sets in. She runs down streets that now appear unfamiliar, as if the city itself is reshaping to trap her. Buildings twist and alleys loop in impossible directions, disorienting her completely. Desperate, she finds an old, abandoned building and slips inside. The air is heavy, almost suffocating. The walls and floors shift subtly, corridors narrowing and expanding as if the building is alive. Light flickers through broken windows, revealing fleeting shadows that move independently of her actions. In a cracked mirror, she sees not her reflection, but a pale, grotesque face with hollow, glowing eyes staring back at her. Heavy footsteps echo behind her, slow and deliberate, growing louder with each moment. At the far end of a dark hallway, a tall, shadowy figure emerges. Its elongated limbs reach toward her, eyes glowing with malice. She screams, but the sound is swallowed by the oppressive silence. The figure moves closer, and the shifting building seems to consume her entirely. Outside, the fog-laden streets remain eerily silent, hiding the horrors within, waiting for the next unsuspecting victim to wander into the haunted city. The city lay silent under a thick veil of fog, the streets abandoned and dimly lit by flickering streetlights. A young girl hurried home, her footsteps echoing unnaturally against the cracked pavement. Shadows twisted along the walls of empty buildings, stretching and bending in ways that made her heart pound. A soft, cold whisper called her name, drifting through the night. She looked behind, but the street was empty. As she moved forward, a dark, indistinct figure appeared at the far end of a narrow alley. It didn't move like a person. Its presence was heavier, unnatural, almost alive. Panic gripped her, and she broke into a run, but the streets no longer followed the familiar paths. Buildings seemed to shift subtly, alleys looping back in impossible ways, turning the city into a living maze. Her phone died suddenly, cutting her off from any connection to the outside world. She stumbled into an abandoned building, seeking shelter, only to find that the interior was hostile. The walls shifted, floors creaked as if breathing, and shadows moved independently, slinking closer with each heartbeat. Light flickered from shattered windows, revealing fleeting, distorted figures that vanished when she tried to focus. She glanced into a cracked mirror and froze. Her reflection had been replaced by a pale, twisted face with hollow, glowing eyes. From the end of the hallway came heavy, dragging footsteps, growing louder. A tall, shadowy figure emerged, its elongated limbs reaching toward her. She screamed, but the sound was swallowed instantly by the thick fog outside. The figure advanced relentlessly, and the building seemed to stretch and twist around her, trapping her completely. The streets outside remained eerily quiet, waiting silently for the next wandering soul to enter the haunted maze of the city. A heavy fog blankets the city streets, muffling every sound. A young girl walks alone, her footsteps echoing eerily against the cracked pavement. The streetlights flicker intermittently, casting long, distorted shadows that twist like living things. A cold breeze brushes past her, carrying a faint whisper that calls her name over and over. She spins around, but the streets are empty, silent except for her own ragged breathing. Turning into a narrow alley, she notices an abandoned statue leaning against the wall. Its hollow eyes glow faint red, and it seems to shift subtly when she isn't looking directly at it. Fear grips her chest as she runs, but the streets begin to warp and twist unnaturally. Familiar paths vanish, alleys loop back impossibly, and buildings seem to move, trapping her in a shifting maze. Her phone dies suddenly, cutting her off from any help. She dives into an old, derelict building, hoping for safety. Inside, the air is heavy and suffocating. The walls stretch and bend, corridors narrow and twist, and shadows crawl across the floor as if alive. She glimpses a cracked mirror and freezes. Her own reflection is gone, replaced by a pale, twisted face with hollow, glowing eyes staring back. Heavy, dragging footsteps echo from deep within the building. At the far end of the hallway, a tall, shadowy figure emerges, its limbs elongated and unnatural. Its glowing eyes fix on her, moving closer with deliberate intent. She screams, but the sound is swallowed instantly by the oppressive silence. The figure reaches out, and the building seems to close in, consuming her entirely. Outside, the fog-laden city remains silent, hiding its horrors, waiting patiently for the next lost soul to wander into its haunted streets.